Hello and a very happy summer to you and yours. I hope you're having a good one so far. And whether you're listening during a staycation or traveling to some exotic destination, I thank you for tuning in to this Encore presentation of the 9th episode of 19 Stories. Since it is summer and people's listening habits change up a bit, I thought that in addition to releasing new episodes, that I'd mix in a few previously released ones from some of the guests that joined me very early on in my podcasting pilgrimage. Nicole Britton is just one of those gracious and brave souls that chatted with me for episode 9 that originally dropped on December 16th, 2020, while our world was still in the grips of dealing with COVID-19 and trying to figure out how to navigate holiday and family gatherings. Given that was 41 episodes ago, and I was still a new podcast host, figuring out how to finesse the art of an interview, the editing and sound, it's fun to look back in gratitude for what I've learned and for the guests who chose to take this journey with me so early on. Since our initial conversation, Nicole's already successful voiceover career has seen some huge wins with her recent signing to a very well-respected talent agency and her subsequent booking in an upcoming DreamWorks animated television series. I couldn't be more delighted for Nicole and to once again share her episode with you.
Disinformation is spreading.
There will be a
We only have
surprise
so many
outbreak.
beds.
Is the issue of
Isn't that
pandemic?
how I
No
thought I
social
would end
distancing
college?
at all.
We didn't
They
know
said
it
that they would
be
express
this,
their concerns
drastic
about
so
the mask
quickly.
supply.
Where's the
One
mask?
expert
Where's the
says
glove?
a second wave is possible.
We all need some good news.
It's a message for all the healthcare workers out there.
Thank you.
If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, if you're fighting the fight of your life, then stand. We're gonna make it through this hand in hand.
From Santa Rosa, California, this is 19 Stories. I'm Cheryl Holling. For over 20 years, Nicole Britton has been an actor and voice talent with a portfolio that encompasses an impressive body of work. After graduating from the University of Colorado, moving to New York, and then Los Angeles, she traveled the world in the all-female creative stilt troupe Girls on Stilts. Nicole was also the lead singer in a rock band and co-wrote for several music placement projects. To add to her treasure of talent, she is a multi-instrumentalist, playing the ukulele, piano, mandolin, guitar, and shaker egg. Nicole currently resides outside of Atlanta, Georgia, where she works full-time from her professional voice studio. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Nicole Britton to 19 Stories.
Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for having me on today. This is going to be fun. I have a good feeling about it.
You are so welcome. Thank you for accepting. And how are you doing today?
Oh, I am doing great, actually. It's wonderful. We are we are in full throttle holiday spirit right now. It is holiday music. It is pine boughs. It is Christmas trees and decorations. It's been fun.
It sounds wonderful. And whereabouts are you outside of Atlanta?
We are just south of Atlanta. We live in a little tiny town called Sharpsburg, population 412.
Oh, really?
400?
400?
Yes.
There aren't zeros after that.
No. I would say that we are probably one of the last suburbs. Maybe we are an exurb before you get to the true Georgia farm country. We're about 35 minutes from Midtown Atlanta. So really, we're not that far, but it's a very different environment out here.
Well, certainly with what's going on in your part of the country, we're recording this on December 6th. And actually, we had a little bit of technical glitches. So if the sound doesn't match up, I apologize to the audience because we first met a little bit on the 4th, and now we're meeting on the 6th. And Atlanta proper is certainly a hotbed for politics right now in so many ways. So it must be a nice respite to be tucked away where you're at.
We definitely feel that. Most definitely feel that. There's a lot going on in our country, in our community, in our city, in our state, our country, worldwide. That goes without saying. While we stay very tuned in, we do have the blessing of living on a little 7-acre parcel. where we can, exactly what you said, find respite. We travel down a tenth of a mile long driveway to get to our house, which is a wonderful moment of decompression from the real world into our highly forested little property where our cabin in the woods sits in the middle. And like I said, it's a great escape, although we are certainly still keeping our finger on the pulse.
Where are your current shelter in place directives and what's going on in your city?
Well, we don't have current shelter in place directives as far as, any kind of mandatory stay at home. We don't have curfews where we are. Most of the businesses around are in, let's see, what's the word I want to use? They're flourishing. Many of them do require masks. And of course, we adhere to that. School is in session, and they have recently decreased the quarantine period of 14 days to 7 days for the people in our area. I homeschool my kids, and I have done so well, my daughter's in seventh grade, so we started in kindergarten, so 8 years. My son is in fourth grade, so we don't feel the impact of them having to do virtual school. They were already doing that anyway. And quite frankly, I think I've said this to various friends and acquaintances over the past week several times. It's interesting. It's really on my mind as I've been thinking about how, and I've been thinking about this for a while, of course, but how so many families have been thrown into some pretty intense situations, right? That's juggling. And I feel actually quite blessed that this was already part of our lives to be a bit insular. And I certainly don't want to look over the impact that COVID-19 has had on so many families health-wise and just, work and school and all that. But we were already living in a bubble. All of that to say, we have been living in a little insular bubble in our own little world for a long time here at the Britton residence. And so though we do feel the impact of it, where do I want to go with that, Cheryl?
Well, I think it's what you're saying, or what I'm hearing is that it's not as adverse as it would be for other families.
Mhm.
My first guest
Yeah.
was actually a woman who has been homeschooling as well, is a voice talent. And I think
Mhm.
having those two factors of, working from home, being used to working from home, having children at home while you work
Mhm.
is really gives you such an advantage to other people whose lives have absolutely been thrown into this dizzy of, oh my gosh, I have to learn to work from home. I have to teach my children from home. And
Mhm.
I just can't even imagine.
Right, no. It's so much. It's so much to take on. Regardless of whether you're a single parent household or you have, a partnership with someone, it's just a lot for everyone to um to take on. So I feel for families that are sort of, that are really trying to figure out how to do all that all at once,
Do you have
right?
people coming to you and saying, hey, how have you been doing this? Could you lend me some pointers here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only on the voiceover side, I think a lot of people really got tuned into a voiceover career and working remotely as a potential income stream, So I think a lot of friends who were kind of left hanging, maybe lost their jobs or were temporarily laid off or permanently laid off, have said, "Hey, can you help me start a voiceover career?" And also other families who have now considered or have taken on homeschooling have said, "How do you do this, Nicole?" I've yet to have a voiceover. No, no, no. I did have a voiceover friend say, "How do I do the voiceover and the homeschooling at the same time?" And I was like, "Well, you're in no better position to do so, right? You guys," I tell this to people all the time. My kids and I, we just do figure eights around the booth. I have their desks set up on either side of our little whisper room isolation booth. And seriously, you should see our dance all day long. We just go in and out. I'll go over and help with a math problem, and then one goes in and does an audition or a gig. And I mean, I make it sound like it's crazy, and it's not really that glamorous, right? It can get a little stressful at times, but we make it work.
I think that's the lesson for all of us this year is taking what we have, making it work. And speaking of work, so you graduated the University of Colorado in Boulder. You go
Mhm.
to the Big Apple. Take me through the steps of, continuing your craft in acting to being a performer on stilts while traveling the world?
Yes. How did that happen? I'm asking myself the same question. How did that happen? Yeah, so yeah, I went to from Colorado to New York City and I went to Playwrights Horizons and studied there in their conservatory program for a couple of years and worked a bit off Broadway and off Broadway and way off Broadway. Loved that time period of my life. It was so good. So good. I was only there for 5 years though, and I was all of 26 when I left. So I
Oh,
decided
so you were young.
it
Yeah,
feels young
really young
now.
when
I
you went.
didn't feel young then, right?
Well,
I was
when do we ever?
I
I
know it's
mean,
so weird and yeah, with a little perspective. Oh my goodness, how little did I know. But um I thought it'd be a good idea to move to Los Angeles and try my hand at more camera work. I did a little bit of film work in New York and liked it. I've always preferred theater.
mhm.
I think I am a pretty theatrical in nature.
Oh, yes. Anybody who follows you on your social media circles would attest to that. We'll, make sure that we give a plug for those sites because they're very entertaining and you have truly one of the best sites on Instagram, but I digress. Sorry, continue.
Oh, thanks for saying that. Sometimes don't you wonder, like, is anybody seeing this? And then because I am in such introspective state of mind these days, it's like, why do I care? Right? I mean, I do care. I don't mean to say that I don't. I do care if people see it or not, but I wonder sometimes what's it all for?
What's
Do
it
you
all
feel
a
that way,
what's it
Cheryl?
all about, Elfie?
What's it
Yeah,
all
well,
for?
actually, you reached
But
out to me because of a recent post I did that I mean, it was half not anger, it was more zeal of, kind of the clamoring voices of what I should be doing with my life according to this, that,
yeah.
or the other person. And I thought, I
Mhm.
didn't even know if I wanted to post it. And out of that, you
Mhm.
actually reached out to me to have a conversation. So you don't ever know.
Yeah,
You
those are the
don't.
moments I wait for. That's the good stuff, right? The gems. So, okay, yeah, so moved to Los Angeles,
Now, what year was that? And there's a reason I'm asking you that. What year did you move to
1998.
Los Angeles?
98 or 99, one of
Okay.
those years. Okay. So, yeah, because I was there for 2000. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Ooh,
So,
okay.
I just did a lot of different jobs when I was there. I still continued to work in theater. I worked in regional theater. Around the country and, got little gigs here and there, mostly commercials, nothing really to brag about, although it was great to be working, don't get me wrong. I paid my bills as an actor, and I have bragging rights to that.
And in Los Angeles, you absolutely do. That is
It's not
no
easy
small
there, you
feat.
know? It really isn't. You're a dime a dozen, but of course, that's okay. You just keep plugging away, and voiceover is kind of the same way. I don't mean that in any negative way. There are a lot of us, and there are a lot of very talented people out there. There's work for everybody. I always take it's an abundance mentality, but I've always done that, obviously, because I've always been a performer in some way, shape, or form. So I get the grind. I obviously enjoy it, or I wouldn't have been doing it for over 20 years, right? Um, but yeah, so I had a lot of different side jobs, and I was doing a show in Los Angeles in live theater, and a friend of mine said, "You've got to meet or it was her boyfriend at the time, you've got to meet my boyfriend. He's got this group of women. They walk on stilts and they walk on walking balls and they juggle." And here I am now, 27, 28 years old. I'm like, can you just start doing that in your late 20s? Like, I thought you had to like grow up
Yeah,
yeah,
that
in
would
a
be my
family
question,
of
sure.
people that knew I just didn't. So, yeah, I go over and, Roy Johns is his name. I just adore him. He is fabulous, and I know that he will eventually listen to this, but, so Roy said, "Alright, great, put these things on your legs," and there were these 3-foot peg stilts, not like the painter stilts with feet, the peg stilts, where you're basically, if you pick your toes up off the ground and try to balance on your heels, you really can't stop moving, and that's the same feeling when you're on peg stilts. You always have to be kinda shifting your weight back and forth because 'cause you're balancing on such small, little, tiny points,
Well,
right?
isn't there a way that you build up to that? I mean,
Here's how I built up to it. In one day, Roy said, strap these things on your feet. He cranked up the salsa music, grabbed my hands and said, let's go. And I'm like, well, okay, first,
Oh,
he is a really good dancer. So trying to keep up with him. No, he was actually fantastic. Always kept eye contact with me. I was, holding his hands. I was white knuckling his hands,
oh,
actually.
no doubt, I would
And
imagine.
before I knew it, Cheryl, I was just dancing. Like I had let go of his hands. And every once in a while, when I'd realize that what I was doing, of course, I'd trip up over myself. But by the end of the day, and it wasn't even a day, it was a few hours, there I was walking on stilts. Now, of course, it wasn't anything, spectacular, but I had figured out how to keep my balance. And then over the course of the next 10 years, I acquired a lot of different skills from Roy. We were called Girls on Stilts. He had already formed that group before I joined. Um, but it was a bunch of dancers and me. Um, I'm not really that great of a dancer. I can move well, but these were real dancers, like LA dancers,
Sure.
Yeah, so I would try my best to keep up, and he taught us all how to juggle. He taught me how to walk on a ball, you call it a rolling globe in the world of variety arts, and just do all kinds of really a jump rope on stilts, just fun stuff. So that was the period when Cirque du Soleil was super popular. That was in the zeitgeist. Every big pharmaceutical billion-dollar company wanted to have some circus theme for their annual conference or their black tie event. So we were flown, I kid you not, but all over the world to do this. And it was a crazy glamorous time of our lives. I felt like a rock star. I know it's just a stilt walker, but
My question, and you answered it, was gonna be exactly where would you use this craft? And you mentioned
yeah,
Cirque du Soleil because that's what came to mind,
yeah.
and one of my guests is a music director for one of the Cirque du Soleil franchises, and I went to one of his shows and went backstage, and when you're around these people, they are such amazing athletes. I mean, you see it in the
Oh,
shows,
yeah.
just to even stand next to one,
Oh,
and
yeah.
when you put the words together of fun and dancing on stilts, that's not something I'm at. That terrifies me. So I'm in awe that you would just be that, basically you just went with it. It's interesting that there was no resistance. You just went with this and it opened up an
Yeah.
entire world for you.
Oh, my goodness. It did. It afforded me, well, I had asked, I had reached out to the universe at that time in my life, and I was like, I really want a job where I can perform and I can travel. And yeah, did
Wow.
the universe deliver? Yeah.
Can I tell you, Nicole, what I'd like?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do
Yeah.
that another time. I'll send you my wish
Okay.
list.
Okay, please do.
Okay.
So there you go, Cheryl. Another instance of I can't say no. I mean, I have to say yes.
Oh, no, and actually, it's interesting you say that because I was listening to a podcast, about saying yes to the correct thing, so, but that's a
Yeah.
whole other topic of
Well, that's
conversation.
true. Actually, one must have discernment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
that is true. And I have said yes to the wrong things a few times, but that's okay. We learn, live
We
and learn.
learn, we live and
Yeah.
loin.
We live
So,
and learn.
how long did you do that for?
Well, for about 10 years, and I worked with two different companies. So I worked with Roy, and by the way, his girlfriend Ingrid Farron, who connected us, is a costume designer, just absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous woman who designed our costumes for Girls on Stilts as well. So, we had this really interesting look about us.
Is that group of women? You have a picture on your Instagram page of,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
stunning.
So
It's
yeah.
just so impressive.
Oh, she's amazing. She's really, really amazing. But yeah, so I did that for 10 years. I worked also for another company where you may have seen me if you were ever at Disney California Adventure, but we also traveled around a lot as a living garden. So this was like a 9 foot tall, all covered in like green vinery, vines. You can call it vinery, can't you?
Yeah.
I don't see why
Hey,
not.
this is our podcast episode. You can
Yes.
call it whatever you want.
So covered
Finally.
head to toe in green vines, and we would assume this sort of Mother Nature role. But what was interesting about that one is we had arm stilts as well. So
Oh
that
my
wasn't
gosh.
necessarily for balance. That was so that we could take our arm and climb it up the side of a wall and then therefore sort of become one with whatever was going on there, like
Oh, how cool. Kind of like a stick insect, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like vines growing up the wall, but then because of those arm poles, of course, that gave us some really cool abilities to we were all super into yoga at the time. So basically we were doing yoga on stilts, but because of the costume and the little bit of a it was feminine but a little bulky, you couldn't sometimes tell which was the arm and which was the leg, and we'd throw our legs up over our heads and do handstands on our stilts and all kinds of crazy stuff, back bends.
Oh my goodness.
And, again, at the time, it seemed like a really good idea. Now, I'm like, "Oh, why did I do that to my knees? Darn."
Yeah, well, the things that we do, but I
I
have
know.
to ask you, how do you even get up on a stilt? How is that possible?
Well, our stilts, yeah, I wasn't walking on super duper high stilts. They were, most of the pair of stilts I worked on were 3 to 4 feet. So that gave us accessibility to, the people that we were there to entertain and have witty banter with. So really, we're only 9 foot
Mhm.
tall women.
Only.
Yeah. But so a couple different ways. You could sit on a table. Typically, that's what we would be provided in our green rooms.
Mm,
So we'd
okay.
just sit on a table and put them on and, kind of wiggle your way up. But, you could also stand up against a wall and do kind of one leg at a time, press yourself up. It took a little figuring out, but once you get it, it's like riding a bike. I've put the stilts on sitting down, like 3 feet off the ground. I can get up off the ground on stilts, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but I just had to do that so many times. You kinda just you gotta figure it out, you know?
Sure, it's like changing your clothes in the car. My husband's always
Yes.
amazed at how women he goes, "How do you do that?" I said, "You just do it.
You
You do
just
what
do
you
it.
have to
I
do,"
know.
right? It's
I
like you're in
know, it's so
sweats, no makeup,
true.
your hair's not curled, by the time you walk out, it's like, "Aha."
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So I wanna go
Yep.
back to your time in LA,
Okay.
and in doing the little bit of research I had a chance to do, 'cause, again, we did this really last minute.
Yeah.
You do something that is I might be having either a great day or a really poopy moment, and I go, "Okay, let me check and see what's going on Instagram or social media, what have you," and I'll come across your In My Driveway series. That
Yes.
just always makes me smile because the music you play and just the vibe of your driveway.
We are actually the smallest property in our area. We have 7 acres. Most of it
And
is
you're the
highly
smallest?
yeah, we're the smallest. Our neighbor's 25 acres, or the other neighbor's 15 acres,
It's
so
the South, honey, I don't know why I'm
I
surprised by that.
I
Yeah, you're
know, there's so much land. It's crazy.
you try and get 7 acres in Los Angeles.
I
Good
oh,
luck with
good
that.
luck. Does it even
No,
exist?
it doesn't. Unless
No.
you get a parking lot or
Oh,
the
yeah.
of the Forum or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, yes. Yes. So, yeah, my driveway's a tenth of a mile long, and, I work out actually 5 to 7 days a week. So, I typically, as the spirit moves me, will put a song in my driveway, and I've originally started doing that because I was inspired by Brené Brown. I was kind of flipping through her stuff, and she was taking a road trip across the country. I
Mm.
hadn't quite yet figured out how to do stories in the first place. It wasn't really on my radar yet. And I was like, "Oh, that is so cool." She had a Glenn Campbell song, and she was just filming out, the countryside out at her window, and I was like, "How did she do that?" So, kinda testing around, and I thought, "Okay, well, I'll just, walk down my driveway here and see if I can do that." And I really liked that, and I actually had the foresight to say, like, "Wouldn't it be cool if I did this often enough, I could, like, document my driveway through the seasons?" When I say my driveway, it's a long gravel driveway that's covered on both sides by dense forest. So,
It's gorgeous. That's why I wanted you to
yeah,
describe
and
it.
let me
It's
tell
just
you
so
something.
beautiful.
That driveway is my saving grace.
Mm.
Coming down that driveway, exiting the quote unquote real world coming into our little bubble is such a joy. I love driving down it. I love walking down it. It really changes my state of mind. It's so perfect. It's one of the reasons why we bought the place. But yeah, so as I said, as the spirit moves me, usually those songs are, well, you've seen, I mean, some of them are just songs from the era where music became ingrained into my soul, which means like the 70s and 80s.
Mhm.
And then some of them are just artists that I discover along the way. I'm one of those people that will put a song on repeat if I love it enough. I'll put it on repeat, play it for days and days. My family thinks I'm nuts.
Oh, my husband,
Yeah.
same thing
Yeah.
over here, and he's a musician, but he still is
Oh,
like,
yeah.
how many times are you gonna listen to that, Cheryl?" And, "How many times are you gonna watch Elf?" You know? "It's July." I'm like, "And your point?"
And your point? I need more. It's so good. Yeah, yeah. But, Cheryl, what's wonderful is that, you were talking about these moments where we connect to people in social media that maybe we didn't know very well before. I've made some really great friends over connecting over the music.
Well, it is the music. Music is such a connector, and one of the
Mhm.
things I wanted to let you know how music is bringing us together is that I had commented on your In My Driveway series, and they have been just a moment of refreshment during my day. But when I read a little bit more about it on your Instagram this morning, it was kind of like this is 6 degrees of separation and yet connection that you and I have in that Amoeba Records was a regular
Mm.
haunt for me. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know if you know that I started at KCRW when I was 18 years old. I
Oh my
had a board
goodness.
shift, and this was long before Nick Harcourt, and I cannot believe I'm having a brain fart. Tom Schnabel. I don't know if you were.
Yes! Oh
So
my
I was
gosh,
there, and
yes!
Tom gave me, after my board shift, he gave me my first music slot at from 2 to 6 in the morning. When I read your connection, your love of KCRW and how morning becomes eclectic, which I
Mhm.
used to sub on for Tom Schnabel. When I read that, I just went, I can't even
That
believe
is
this
crazy.
because
Yeah.
isn't it crazy
Yeah.
sauce?
It's
I
totally crazy sauce.
I just love, and it's not a term I use often, but I think
We
when I
should
read
use
that,
it more frequently.
let's make some crazy sauce. I just love that I read that about you. I got really, really excited. And the other thing, and this is, it's going to seem totally off topic, but it's really not because it kind of ties in with an idea I've had. And I think if we can get enough of our peeps together, it might be something we can run with. But you mentioned your mom's cookbook that you were able to get a hold of, that your
Yeah.
stepmom found. And
Yeah.
I've had an idea, and of course now it's going to be out there, but if I don't run with it, somebody else will. But have you ever narrated some of the recipes?
What an amazing idea, Cheryl.
Well, thank you, Nicole.
That is so good.
I think so.
Are you thinking of doing like an audio cookbook?
Yes, of voice actors, because I even got the domain name Voice Kitchen. I got that years ago because I'm thinking it's just one of those million things that I want to jump off and do, but
Oh,
I don't have a staff yet. I don't know why. Where is my staff? Um,
yeah. Where is
where
your
is my
staff?
staff?
Staff! Staff! Excuse me. Staff? Hello?
I know.
Man.
I've been waiting for a liquid refreshment, and I don't know where my staff is. So yes, yes, when I read that, girlfriend, I said, "Oh my gosh, maybe Nicole will, we can chat about this later." But excuse me, I have a hiccup coming.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so getting to know you.
Yes, yes. Getting to know all about you.
And you do sing, and you do, oh my gosh. Okay, we have to, and I don't want to put you on the spot if you're totally not into it because I thought I was the queen of chickens. Oh my gosh. Please tell me what gave you the just brilliant idea of going in your booth and singing harmony as a chicken with yourself. I mean, you're doing how many parts?
Oh, that's right. Of that Led Zeppelin tune?
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know, I think I did 6 different parts. I'm not sure. I'm working on Carol of the Bells, by the way.
Are you as a chicken?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty good.
What are you smoking there in Georgia?
Nothing. This is just natural.
Natural high. I love it. Oh, just in time for Christmas.
Yes. I actually missed I was gonna try to do it quarterly. I actually bartered with a friend of mine who is a professional drummer, and, I asked him if he could teach me because I have a drum kit, and my kids play it a lot more than I do. I can keep a rhythm on it, but nothing too impressive, but I asked him if he could teach me the intro to Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll so that I could, add a few instruments in to
Oh my
doing that,
gosh.
and I don't know what happened to me. It's not that I lost interest. I don't know where the time has gone, honestly, Cheryl. It's already almost Christmas.
I have a landmark birthday next week. Trust me. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday in
Thank
advance.
you.
How wonderful.
Yeah. Rolling with the oldies, baby.
Badge of
Yeah.
honor.
It beats the alternative, right? So
Yeah. You
you
gotta
got
do
to
it.
just
Just
do
do
it.
it.
And
Go for it. Just say yes to it, Cheryl.
so, okay, we were talking about Led Zeppelin, and you know what's funny? My husband's a drummer,
Is
and
he?
yes, he is. In fact, what is the kit that you have?
We were very, very blessed to acquire a hand-me-down kit. It was a secondary kit that a pro drummer had, and he donated it to the music school where my daughter takes classes. And we showed up one day, and they said, "We can't keep this here. Can anyone take this?" And they looked right at me, and I went, "Yes," because I
Yeah.
don't say no. And, we ended up with this beautiful drum kit, and my daughter was super into this. She was, like, 7 years old now. She'll be 13 on December
She's a
18th.
December
Yeah,
baby.
I know. I guess that's another landmark birthday, isn't it?
Yes, she's gonna
Becoming
be
a
a
teen?
teen. Happy,
Yes.
happy, happy birthday to your daughter. Oh my
Yay. I
gosh.
know, it's so exciting, so exciting. And then my son is 9, he'll be 10 in January, but, it doesn't get the love it needs anymore. I do continue to barter with my friend from time to time when we can fit it in, but, it's tough to find the time for hobbies, you
Again,
know?
where's your staff? Gotta get your staff.
Where's my
So are
staff?
you
Yes.
actively singing? You still keeping that up?
Yes and no. I it's so funny that you would ask. I got my first singing gig in quite a long time, just a week and a half ago. And girl,
Oh.
you know what it was? It was 15 50 style hits for a music library. But again, like we were talking about harmonies, it was like you'd have the lead vocal and then I recorded all the Andrew sister style harmonies and the shoe bops and the
Oh
sh-
my
and
gosh.
and the doo-wops and everything else.
Can you
It
say
was
who this is for?
it was for it's an Alibi is the name of the company. They're in the UK. They're just they're an online music library. So, if you're shopping for 50s hits, there you go. But my friend actually that I was in a band with for about 7 years in
Yes,
Los
yes, yes,
Angeles.
yes, of course.
He is an amazing composer, producer, and human being, and invited me in on the project. So he composed the tunes and did the male version of what I
Because
did.
it sounds
So
like a lot of work. Now, did he engineer that or you
he did, thankfully, because that is not my forte. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I would have done it if he needed me to, but thank goodness. He was like, "Please, vocals only." I said, "Yes,
Yeah, I
thank
meant
you."
to ask you were in a group for how long?
It was called Scientific Lifestyle, and, actually, I got in because their lead singer quit one day, and they needed to replace her real quick. We had a mutual friend, and my friend was like, "Hey, can you learn 10 songs and play a gig?" I don't even remember the name of the place. It was somewhere in Silver Lake. "Can you do this, this was a Wednesday. Can you be prepared by Friday?" What did I say, Cheryl?
Yes.
Of course I did.
Mm. Oh my god. So wait, what did you say? Scientific lifestyle?
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
what comes to mind when you say that name is like a Devo-esque type of group.
Yeah, that's
Is
what
it?
it was inspired by, but it was already named by the time. I didn't have anything to do with naming it or even the style of the music, which quite frankly was very different than what I'm typically attracted to. I had a lot of fun trying to fit into a sort of a No Doubt Gwen Stefani pop alt sound,
Mm-hmm.
but that wasn't necessarily the music that I was inspired by, right? But yeah, it was interesting. We had a really fun time, and in fact, I think one of my favorite parts actually was towards the end of our run together. We all realized as musicians, we did quite well writing music together and ended up selling more of our music for placement than we did selling albums or anything like that. Um, but that was a
That's
really,
not too
no, it wasn't
shabby
too
at all. There's
shabby.
a lot of musicians who would
It,
and writers who would love to have that.
yeah, we had a good time, and the only reason why it didn't last is that we just all kind of grew up, you know? We got
Mm-hmm.
married and started families and realized how difficult it was to practice and stay out late and do all the things that we'd been doing. So, but yeah, so just last week I sang, and for the first time in a long time. So I kind of messed up. I went to school on a music scholarship.
Oh.
And I thought I was going to stick with classical studies as far as a vocalist was concerned. And then I switched over to the theater department in my second year of school at CU Boulder. But,
I didn't get a
yeah.
sense of that in reading your and that might be something to put into your on your website because that's another offering.
Yeah. You know, I have really struggled with putting myself out there as a vocalist in the last few years. In fact, I play a lot of different instruments and I started playing instruments when I was quite young. Piano is my main gig. But Cheryl, I start crying when I play music. It's so embarrassing. It didn't happen to me when I was doing the 50s songs, that there's some kind of weird emotional thing that happens to me. Like there are times when I sit at my piano and I play and I'm like, this would be so cool to record this and put it on
Mhm.
Instagram and share it. And I just can't. I can't get through anything without losing it. I just fall apart.
That shows you how connected you are, and I get it. I mean, I weep at music. Maybe just push through that. Do 2 takes,
Yeah.
do 3 takes because that's a gift. You really I mean, you're so multi-talented. You have so much to I mean, to say that you play multiple instruments, I didn't even touch upon that. I could talk to you forever.
Likewise.
Thank you. I've really
This was
gosh, this
wonderful.
is great for a first date. Um,
This was one of the greatest first dates I've ever had.
thank you. I'm so glad that you reached out to me, and I mean, I see that a
Well,
lot brings you joy.
just a quick thank you for, saying yes to my invitation to just, have a Zoom coffee. And then look what you did. You turned it into something really amazing,
Well, I
Cheryl.
thank you. You're welcome. I
You have
think
the Midas touch.
the Midas touch. I think that was just, I just got the tap, and this will lead on to a question that I have for you. It was really God speaking out to me to get, jump off again. So that kind
I
of
know. Yeah.
transitions into a question of, are there any fears during this pandemic
Yeah.
that you find yourself wrestling with, whether it's staying at home or when you do travel out into, quote, the real world?
I'm not a fearful person. By nature, I'm a go-getter. If I like to follow instructions though, if you want me to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. If you want me to do
Hmm.
socially distance, I'm happy to do so. But it doesn't keep me from getting out and doing what we need to do. Of course, our activities have shifted. As a family, we do a lot more hiking to get out into the world instead of, going and taking gym classes or things like that, of course. But I mean, really, to answer your question, I do have some concern, clearly, about my kiddos' lives are going to look like, but who's to say? We keep a positive outlook and stay as involved as possible to carve out something really wonderful for them. Does that make sense?
It certainly does, and it sounds like you have a grounding to you. It sounds like there may be something that allows you not to live into that fear at a time when a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So, is there a particular faith that helps you through your life or through this time so that you don't succumb to fear?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for saying that about the grounding part. I try so hard. But let me tell you, right now, life feels a little crazy. It feels a little messy sometimes. But what really pulls it all together is the faith. The faith is beautiful. My faith and my relationship with a higher power is intimate. And tell ya, I've been asking God a lot of questions lately. Some would call it prayer. Sometimes I call it like standing in the middle of my house crying out, "What the heck is going on?" Um,
Mm.
but I study. I meet with groups of like-minded people throughout the week, and we study the Word of God. And I mean, I'm always seeking. I get confused as anybody else. I'm always looking for some kind of truth, but I think God keeps me on the rails.
Well, it's a beautiful thing that you are seeking because I can't imagine going through this time in particular
Yeah.
or any other personal crisis that someone may have without relying on something that guides us along the path to find
Yes.
our strength and be grounded.
Yes.
It's I've heard someone say before, well, that's just a crutch. And I'm thinking, oh, and hallelujah for it, because think of all the other things people find for crutches,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's
Yes.
addictions. And so what's wrong with that? I'd rather have the crutch on my higher power and God
Yes.
than anything that this world can offer. So thank you for being willing to share that. What makes you hopeful?
Oh my goodness. I am again so many blessings, Cheryl. What makes me hopeful? My kids. Gosh. There's so much hope.
Mm,
I am inherently pretty optimistic person, so
I sense that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it all works out in the end. Um and I genuinely, pray for that for our kiddos. Of course, of course. But yeah, my kiddos keep me hopeful.
In listening to all that you do, which is you're just a powerhouse of talent. You really are, Nicole. I'm
Oh.
just so delighted to have this conversation with you. And, music has obviously been a big part of your life.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, two things. How much are you able to incorporate that into your voice work? Maybe you can answer that first question, then I'll ask you something else.
Okay. Um, Incorporating music into my voice work is something I do not do enough, Cheryl. I want more. I mean, and that's up to me, right? I don't actually seek that. I don't really invite that into my voiceover world for whatever reason, after that, which is crazy. I mean, I've been playing instruments since I can remember. I started playing piano when I was 3, and I actually made a vow to myself about 5 years ago that every year I would pick up a new instrument. I've been faithful ever since. From
Are you
mandolin.
really?
Yes.
So, I mean, because I in your opening, of course, we heard all the instruments that you play, but I didn't realize it's kind of a multilinguist. They're always learning new languages.
Mhm.
So, is it a challenge for you to learn, or it's just a desire? You're like, this year I'm going to learn this. Next year I'm going to learn that.
It's both. It's a challenge and a desire, although I will say the more different types of instruments I pick up, it becomes a little less challenging. Of course, I have like very little faculty over any of them. I mean, I dabble in, well, a couple years ago it was banjo. This year I started playing drums. Several years ago it was mandolin. I'm thinking probably next year I'm going to ask for an accordion, but they're really starting to take up a lot of space here.
Can I share something with you?
Yes, please.
The Fuller Brush Men did not exist when you were growing up. I'm almost certain of that. But what existed in addition to the Fuller Brush Men is people would come door to door with lessons, music lessons that you could take.
Right.
So a man came to our door. My sisters were studying piano and came by with an accordion and said,
Mhm.
for I don't know, whatever it was at the time. This was 1971. For $9.95 for lessons, you get this free accordion. And so my mom thought, because
Yeah.
having full-blown braces in 1971 was not hip like it is now, top and bottom headgear, and she enrolled me in accordion classes.
Right.
Thing is, I loved accordion. I loved
Oh,
it. But what they didn't
I'm
tell
sure.
you is, yeah, you have this free accordion
Oh.
because after you learn to do scales and the
Oh, I bet.
basics, they have this other one for $595. Now, again, this is 1971. So, I encourage
Wow.
you to play accordion.
Yeah.
Just have at it.
Yeah.
And when you and I ever meet and I can pick it up and remember, we can just, you can be on drums and I'll be on
Okay.
accordion. And I don't know, maybe that's our $1 million YouTube idea.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I love what a great story and how much that brings up for you, from the braces to the guy coming door to door. It is so cool. I love that. I've always thought the accordion was the coolest thing. One of the first concerts I ever went to was a Cajun concert. Actually, the first concert I ever went to was Liberace,
Shut the
which was
front
pretty
door. What do you
cool.
mean? How do you get what
I know.
how does that happen? I went to my first concert was the Beach Boys and C Train. So
Oh, well, that's very cool. No, my parents took me. So, I mean, if we're talking first concert where I was definitely under 9 years old. So I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and Liberace was my hero. Plus, I loved his outfits. I wanted to play just like him.
he was such the consummate
And
girl,
his
so I can understand why.
Oh. I know, exactly. I didn't know that at the time, though. I also loved Elton John. I
Mhm.
didn't know why.
There you
I
go.
was like They're so great, though. But then, also, near around that time period, Don't Mess With My Toot Toot, I was really into Cajun
Oh my
music.
gosh.
And, Rockin' Sydney came to town. And I was born and raised the first 10 years of my life in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, yeah, he came through Tulsa and my parents took me, and that was pretty cool. But there was a mean accordion player on stage, and I just thought that's it right there. Got to play accordion. Which seems like it would be pretty easy. I'm sure it's not easy. I know there are a lot of buttons to push, but I can play piano and I have an okay ear, so I feel like it would be a little less of a learning curve. But I'm probably maybe I'm overconfident.
No, if you play that's the thing with any, most people know if you learn how to play the keyboards, you can pretty much
Yeah.
adapt to any instrument, and since that was your first instrument, I think that's what you mentioned last time we spoke, that it's your first instrument.
Yes.
It's just coordination, the bellows, the buttons, but you should pick it up in no
Yeah.
time. So, Nicole, I have so enjoyed this time, and in listening to about your world travels, your involvement with voiceover and music, and having such an eclectic lifestyle. Truly, if you had a soundtrack for your life, whether it spans the decades, whether it's just where you're at right now,
Mhm.
what would it be and what music would be included in that?
This is a wonderful, wonderful question. The first song I would put on would be Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu in C sharp minor. That means the world to me. Actually, it's pretty heavy, but so I don't want to make anybody cry, but it is something that I was learning to play. I lost my mom when I was pretty young, and she just sh- she believed in me so much as far as music goes and everything else. Anything I ever wanted to do, she was like, "All right, let's do it." You wonder where I got
Beautiful.
that? Okay, yes, that yes mentality. I got
Mhm.
it from her.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so and do you know that I have still not learned to play the whole song? I have the music, it sits on my piano, although now it's buried underneath all kinds of other fun pieces, but I love listening to that piece. So that would be on there. I would definitely have some Radiohead on there that encompasses a time period for me, like, specifically, I love the OK Computer album, but that was one of the first concerts I went to on my own when I was in college, and my first experience, stage diving.
Well, we all remember what song we stage dive to. That's great.
Yes,
That's great.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And, I have Wilco on there. I love Yankee Foxtrot Hotel, that whole album, but my favorite song on there is Jesus, Etc. So good, and so many good covers out of that. Ooh, Prince. I love Prince. I'd have the Purple Rain album on there, mainly because that's like middle school and high school for me. Talking Heads. I love the song This Must Be the Place. So good.
Have you seen Stop Making Sense?
Yes!
I saw that when that first came out.
Genius.
Wonderful.
Let's watch it again.
Okay. We can have
We really should.
we could have a virtual movie viewing party.
Yeah, I like that
I don't know,
idea. Can we
something.
eat popcorn?
Yes. Oh,
Okay, I'm in.
girlfriend, popped
Yes.
in coconut oil
Yes,
with
me too.
garlic powder. No, are you serious?
Ooh.
I
I do
make it in coconut oil with
mm.
garlic powder, and sometimes I'll put some Pecorino Romano grated cheese on it.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's what I'm
if
having
I
for
wanna be really decadent and
yes.
not be able to move for the next week.
Oh, but it's so worth it.
So
Yes,
worth
that
it.
sounds
Yes.
amazing. I love that. Okay, Into the Mystic, Van Morrison.
Who doesn't love Van
I know,
Morrison?
right?
And if they don't, then they don't belong in your sphere.
I know, right? Like, who are you? Who do you think you are?
That's right, a van conversion
Hello,
down
we
by
need to
the
have a
river.
conversion here.
Baptize you. Yes.
Yes. Yep. There might be a song about
Mhm.
that too. Led Zeppelin, of course. Kashmir is one of my favorite all-time songs. Anything by Nina Simone or Edith Piaf, but I tell you
Mm,
what, I like both of their
beautiful.
versions of Nimakita Pa. That also encompasses a time period in my life when I lived in Larchmont, down the street from the gates of
I'm
Paramount.
I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna say when I traveled in Paris and there's a, Champs-Élysées when I lived
Nope.
in Larchmont. Yeah, me and Edith Piaf down in Larchmont.
In
Sorry.
Larchmont in LA. I painted the words, all of the lyrics to that song down my hallway one night. I
Really?
I did.
That's
Hand
so
painted.
cool.
It was so cool. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done as far as decor is concerned.
And no hit on Larchmont. I'm sorry. Larchmont's very hip. It's
Oh,
just not
yeah.
what I
Yeah,
expected
no, no, no. I
to
wish I
hear
could have
in that
said, like
sentence. That's
yeah,
all.
I know. I could have said something way cooler, but it's
No, no,
not
no,
the
no.
truth.
Larchmont is cool for everybody, anybody and everybody listening. Larchmont, you're very hip, very cool.
Larchmont is so hip. It's so good. And then, let's see, anything by Billie Holiday. Did I say that?
No, you did not.
Love her voice. Love
Mhm.
her voice. And then, I love Americana and American music. I mean, the influence on American music is such a melting pot anyway. I kind of feel like we definitely get the world music vibe when we listen to artists like Chris Thile and Edgar Meyer and Stuart Duncan and Yo-Yo Ma and their Goat Rodeo Session album. I could listen to that on repeat for years. It's
I will have to write that down because I
so
haven't heard
good.
that before.
Oh, it's
I'm
so
admitting
good.
that. Yes. No, I haven't. And so far, your eclectic mix is just fabulous. The fact that you mentioned Nina Simone and Edith Piaf and Billie Holiday, because I tend to
Mhm.
of course, love instrumentals, but any singer of massive substance like that,
Yeah.
good choices, really good choices. I
I'm
want to
gonna
come to
make a
your party.
playlist. I'm gonna make a
Yes.
playlist for you, and I'm gonna send it to you.
I would love that. I would so love that because I was saying I want to come to your party. You're gonna have the best music.
Oh, I wanna come to your party. I think that, we could have a party together, and we could be the DJs, and we could potentially entertain them with some brilliant chicken clucking.
So, Nicole, is there something else you'd like to talk about as it relates to this time in your life?
Well, gosh, Cheryl, I can't really think of anything. I feel like we've covered so much territory. Is there something else you can think of?
Of course there is, because there's so much to you and so much in your history. And it's, you know, when you can take an hour with someone to talk about their life, if you can paint a broad stroke of what that encompasses, it's beautiful. But of course, getting into the details, we could do multiple episodes of
No,
this.
I'm just taking it in, really. Um, that's really kind of you to say. It's so funny. I mean, I feel like if I were to say the same thing you just said to me to you, you'd be like, "Oh no, come on," because that's how I feel. Like, come on, it's not that interesting. But yeah, I guess I've done a lot of fun stuff. So have you. I never really thought twice about it. I have no regrets. I wish sometimes I'd made a few different decisions, but no regrets?
That's a really beautiful place to be in, and not
Yeah.
everybody can say that. I can't say that. I have actually quite a few, but the grace of my faith and getting older is that you forgive yourself as you forgive others, because otherwise it's
Yes.
debilitating and you don't move forward. But it's, hindsight is always what it is. And some people don't have a lot, and that's a very amazing, wonderful place to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean one experience is right and one isn't. It just means lives were lived differently, different choices, different circumstances.
Right.
And, in the end, it's, as I think we've touched on before, it's all about love and the memories we take with
Yes.
us, the memories we share with others, and living a life full enough at the end of your ride. Hopefully here, well done, good and faithful servant,
Oh,
right?
well said. Yes. Yes. And those are my final words.
And I am sticking to it.
Perfect.
Well, Miss Nicole Britton, the queen of the chickens, um, and so
Oh,
much more.
oh. Well, thanks for saying that, other queen of the chickens. Um,
No, I bow down to you. I bow down to your chickenhood.
no, please don't. We have got to do something with this talent of ours. We really do.
Please tell people how they can get a hold of you and how they can follow you and how they can hire you and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for inviting me to share that. My website is NicoleBrittonVoice.com. Sometimes I hang out on Instagram at Nicole Britton Voice. And shoot me an email, Nicole@NicoleBrittonVoice.com.
And hire her to sing for you because she's also a singer.
or do voiceover crazy voices,
A
or
chicken.
maybe a chicken. Actually, obviously Cheryl and I both do some amazing chicken impressions, so you could hire both of us.
Never anticipated. I know you'll upstage me because you're sublime in your chickens, but I never thought I would say, let's kind of take this out with the girls.
With some
Yeah,
chickenese.
there you go, chickenese. But shall we give it a go?
I think so. Should we do a song, or should we just have a dialogue?
Ooh, I think we could have a dialogue. I'll let you start.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And on that note, Ms. Nicole Britton, this has been just thank you. This has been so enjoyable and delightful and a wonderful way to get to know you. And I just wish you continued joy and success. And
Cheryl, I'm so grateful that you invited me into your catharsis. I mean, this was such a wonderful, pleasant, loving, nurturing experience, and thanks for asking all those really wonderful questions.
it is my pleasure, really. I feel like you've given me such a gift today, and it started because you reached out. And had you not done that, we may not be here. So thank you for giving me the gift of this conversation and for making the connection. And I hope this is one of many, many, many more, and certainly look forward to the chance where I could see you face to face in
Yes.
person.
Well, I've told you before, whenever you're ready and things kind of like get more comfortable for folks to be traveling, you are welcome here anytime, and I want to walk down my driveway with you. And we'll make a playlist. That's what we'll do while we're walking. We'll make a playlist.
I would
Wouldn't that be cool?
absolutely love that. I will be part of your staff.
I would be thrilled if you would just be my friend. That would be awesome.
Amen, my dear. Thank you. I
Amen.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, Nicole, you take care of
You
yourself.
too, Cheryl. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank the following news outlets for the use of their clips in so aptly painting the picture of the fear that we're facing during this pandemic. BBC, PBS, Now This, UNESCO, and Some Good News. I especially want to thank Joel and Luke Smallbone, otherwise known as the Group for King and Country, for allowing me to use an excerpt of their song Together, which could not be a more hopeful and inspiring song for such a time as this. Finally, I'll leave you with the following from Proverbs 23:18. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Thank you again for joining me today. Feel free to offer feedback or a story idea at 19stories@soundsacralstudios.com, via Instagram at CherylHollingVO. I look forward to sharing more stories on the next episode of 19 Stories from Fear to Hope. Until then, stay healthy and hopeful.
Together with our differences, together we are bolder, braver, stronger.